The newly appointed head of the International Organization for Migration has made Ethiopia her first working visit, kicking off a trip that will span the Horn of Africa. The first female Director General for the more than 7 decades old organization assumed office on October 1. During a press conference held in Addis Ababa alongside her visit, the Director General stated what her plans are during her term.
In terms of my priorities, I'm starting with 3 near-term priorities. The first is focusing on the impacts of climate on human mobility. And the reasons are obvious if you live in the Eastern Horn of Africa. We have seen about 7 million people who've been displaced as a result of climate change just in sub-Saharan Africa. In this region, we've seen communities displaced by drought most recently, but also by flooding. We know that climate will become one of the greatest destabilizers of communities unless further action is undertaken by communities and by member states and partners. So for me, this is an area where IOM is well positioned to respond, but we need to do more in concert with our member states and our partners. Second is to make sure that we're really unlocking the potential of migration. Too often we talk about migration just as a problem that has to be solved. We focus just on human suffering. We focus just on border management. But really, the goal here is to identify how we use migration as a tool to unlock human potential, to advance economic development, and to do so by ensuring there are more regular pathways for people to be connected to opportunity. So knowing that migration is at the heart of human development, is at the heart of human civilization, how do we as an organization, working with governments and partners, enable it to be a force for good rather than just a challenge that we're grappling with? And finally, if we're going to do that, we have to do it in partnership, whether it's partnership with the private sector, who will benefit when migration is well managed, in partnership with civil society, in partnership with development banks. So as I come in, those are my near-term 3 priorities: climate, regular pathways, partnerships.
On questions raised from the press about the recent conflict in Gaza and how it might affect her organization's operation worldwide, she had this to say.
Gaza is one that we're watching closely. Obviously, all of us within the international community are urging that there be diplomatic solutions. We all know the price that is paid by civilian communities, particularly vulnerable communities, when there is armed conflict, when there is war, and the impact on vulnerable people is extreme, right? So we know that if the conflict continues to escalate, we anticipate more people will obviously die, more will be displaced, and the need for humanitarian response will go up. Now you have to put that in context of what's happening globally. As you know, there has been horrific floods in Libya not long ago. There was an earthquake in Morocco just a few weeks ago. There was an earthquake in Afghanistan just a few weeks ago. I mean, you layer one conflict upon disaster, upon disaster, upon disaster, and you see the numbers of people who are being displaced rise astronomically. So you go to the question we just had about what resources exist, and we recognize that government resources are limited. So that is our major concern, is ensuring that we are able as humanitarian organizations to protect the fundamental rights of human life and human dignity of all people. So it's one that gives us quite a lot of concern.
During her stay in Ethiopia, the Director General visited IOM's Ethiopia and Africa missions, as well as held discussions with high-level Ethiopian officials that included President Sahle-Work Zewde and Women's and Social Affairs Minister Ergoge Tesfaye.
Ethiopia indeed has made progress over the past 30 years, and it's great progress, and we want to be able to keep understanding what led to that progress and how we can be able to move faster and move at scale. So we're celebrating that, but at the same time, we're saying we haven't gotten to zero.
A high-level delegation for a joint program on the elimination of female genital mutilation has visited Ethiopia, holding meetings with national partners in launching the 2022 annual report for the program. The UNICEF and UNFPA-led joint program currently covers 17 countries, making it the largest in the world in addressing FGM. The high-level delegation was composed of members of the two organizations, donor country representatives, and leadership for the joint program. During their visit, members of the delegation held a press briefing, answering questions that ranged from the purpose of their visit, the program's accomplishment, and ensuring the success of the program.
Part of this steering committee meeting involves a field visit. We were very lucky to have been invited to witness what success looks like in Ethiopia when in the context of the implementation of this very comprehensive program. We have been visiting the Adash district, and specifically one of their waredas, one of their kebeles, where we saw how community-led interventions were supported by quite a strong supported program that is quite owned by the local authorities through all levels. We have seen how the strengthening of a multi-sectoral, the multi-sectoral system is key if we want to see changes in the community. And one of the things that have been quite striking for us is how youth, in particular girls, that are part of this community are becoming not only influencers, but yes, mostly influencers in their community, but also how these interventions are contributing to make them realize their bodily autonomy.
On questions from the press on how the program measures success and on their plan to ensure its success, they had this to say.
And we have seen in Ethiopia over the years the percentage reducing. It was 9 in 10 down to 5 in 10 in some areas. So it's clear, it's evidence-based that FGM prevalence is reducing. So the trend is going down, and with statistical calculations, you could actually project, if it continues at a certain rate, this is where it is going to end by that year. So it's all evidence-based and to inform when it is going to end. So there are estimations made if there is no acceleration of efforts, it's going to end after, X years. But the calculation is that if we want to end FGM in Ethiopia, we have to work 8 times more harder to end it. So it's that's how it is calculated.
And I must say, having a global program like this gives us such a nice platform to be able to share across other programs. So, for example, the global program to end child marriage by UNICEF and UNFPA, supported by many partners, including some who are here today, right, allows us to really take the synergy from that program and this program and build them together. So really, having this program in a way really allows us, again, to exchange and not just learn from community to community, country to country on FGM, but broader issues as well.